Okay, we'll call to order this meeting of the Sturgis City Council tonight, Tuesday, January 20th, 6:30 p.m. Our first item of order is to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Tony, would you lead this?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have Pastor Bill Myros taking care of a prayer tonight for us.
1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, paraphrase, says to pray for those who are rule over us, that we may have peaceful and quiet lives. And so, Father, tonight we do pray. We pray for this city council, that as they go into this session, that they make the decisions that help us, the citizens and residents of Sturgis, lead peaceful and quiet lives. And we pray for your peace and prosperity. Amen.
Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Aaron, did we have an add that we're going to do to that, or are we going to wait? Okay, so no changes to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
First by Alex, a second by Nick to approve the agenda. Those in favor indicate by stating yes. Opposed, no. Item 4 is announcements and praise. Does anybody have any announcement or praise for the community tonight? Anybody from council?
I have, thanks to Deb. We've got a pretty good list of things that are coming up, Mayor. This Wednesday, the 21st, Monument Health Wellness Fair, that's going to be held from 3 o'clock until 6:30 p.m. at the Sturgis Community Center. Health talks, blood pressure screenings, vendor booths, free swag, and snacks. So that's coming up Wednesday afternoon from 3 o'clock until 6:30. And Bonnie, that's at the Sturgis Community Center. And then this weekend, Friday through Sunday, the 23rd through the 25th, will be the Bear Butte Classic Basketball Tournament. More than 100 teams will be in Sturgis competing at locations throughout the town. It's a big deal. Coming up the following Tuesday, week from today, January 27th, will be a municipal utility meeting, a board meeting at 7 o'clock a.m., City Hall Council Chambers. Wednesday the 28th, that's a week from tomorrow, the library board will meet at 4 o'clock, City Hall Council Chambers. And then on Saturday the 31st, this will be an important thing that I would certainly encourage as many of you as possible to attend. It will be the Legislative Cracker Barrel. It'll be the first one for this legislative session. It's the January 31st. It'll be at the Meade County Erskine Building on a Saturday morning, the 31st, and it starts at 9 o'clock. The District 29 legislators invited include Senator Carley, Representative Jorgensen, and Representative Rice. And they'll be answering questions, but it'll be a good chance for you to get the idea of what's happening in Pierre. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Jim. Don't we have a second basketball tournament? A week out? We'll have to make sure that we catch that on the next one.
I don't know about that, but I do know that I missed the Sturgis Economic Development meets at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So
You'll figure it out there.
okay.
Is there a second tournament, though, coming up? February. Yeah, thank you. All right, any other announcements or praise? Anybody from the audience? All right, we'll continue on to item 5, non-agenda matters that may come before the council. So any non-agenda item that someone wants to address, is there anybody from council that has a non-agenda item? How about from the gallery? All right, we're moving real fast. You had something?
I was just thinking about asking a quick question. Can I do it from here? It's a Rick question. With dumpsters all over in everybody else's yard, what do we do to get them back home? Do we call you? Is there a way to tell which one goes where?
You can call us and we can give you your number.
If we give you a number, can you tell us where that number goes?
Yes.
Okay, because I got extra dumpsters.
Yeah. So the question was, Bonnie has extra dumpsters and she wants to know how to get them home, and call Rick.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 6, department updates. 6.1 is December sales tax report.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Sales tax report for December and also for the whole of the year of 2025. You know, it's been an interesting year, as we've talked about before. We started off pretty heavy, had some of our best months there, January through April. Had kind of a lull, you know, there in the early part of the summer, and then we started picking up again pretty strong in August, and it's been really strong all the way through December. If you look at that, Deb, if you can put the chart up, on the one on the bottom right. Yep. I was looking at the 6-year comparison from 2019 to 2025, and you can see for general sales tax, 2025 was the best that we had during that period, and also, you know, in the history of Sturgis when it comes down to general sales tax. So again, we ended up pretty strong. We're approximately 4.5% higher than we were last year, and 5% higher than we were in 2023. So if we go into the next, looking at the special, the triple B. This one was a little bit of a different story, but overall we still ended up, you know, pretty strong. It was the second best year in the last 6 years, just a little bit below 2024. That one was kind of, you can see same thing with the general sales tax between May and August. It was a little bit lower, particularly May and July, just like the general sales tax, and then started picking up. Had a pretty strong August and September, and it's kind of held its own and compared to the last couple of years through the last 3 months of the year. So we ended up just short of 500,000 when it comes down to the triple B. Pending your questions.
Certainly good to see the numbers come up, as they were not showing as good earlier in the year than what we finished at. Any other questions?
Am I reading that right? Is it like 3,000 short is all?
3,000?
What was the question?
She wonders, is the 498 to the 501, are you comparing 23 to, or 25 to 24?
Yeah, I can't quite read the numbers, is my problem.
Yeah, if you're looking at the triple B, in 2025, we were 498,923. And last year, which was the best year out of the last 6 years, we were 501,531. Just about 2,500 less than last year.
Okay, continuing on, item 7 is the mayor's report. The only item on that is the Greater Sturgis Foundation. Pardon me? Oh, did I go over the financial report? Can I have you hold for just a second?
I'll try to nip it.
I jumped over the financial execution report. I was so excited to get to the, so hold on just a second, would you?
You can go ahead.
Yeah.
A little bit of how we ended for the year also, but after moving contingency money, the general fund departments were all within budget. Everything looked good. At the end of December, the city's general fund collectively reported total revenues of $12,637,018 compared to budget of $10,033,544, resulting in a favorable variance of $2,603,472. This total includes the sale of the Richards property to the state of South Dakota for $981,950, which was unbudgeted, so that does mess with that, it skews that a little bit. When I do the annual report, I'll I'll have true numbers when I get done, because it'll show it all in the reports, how that all breaks out. Then the total expenses for general fund were $9,077,336 versus budget of $10,086,142, producing a favorable variance of $1,008,805. As the end of December, the city general fund ended with a net surplus. Again, I'll have an exact number once the annual report, once I work through that and I get the year-end adjustments and any other adjustments from the audit. The 24 audit will change some things too, I'm sure, as we go forward. I will confirm these numbers and report the new numbers with explanation and more detail when the annual report is completed.
By first meeting in May, right?
Yes.
How does that fit our financial reporting for the rest of our accounts? Are we locking in on that?
As far as the
Totals.
totals. Yes, yes, by the 1st of May, I'll have the annual report will be done. All those numbers should be good. We'll get with the auditors, once they get done with the audit, we'll have correct numbers is what we'll have. And then it'll all move forward. And I'll have true numbers then by that time.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
I think I want to point out to the council is Deb, can you take it down to the revenues on the very first page? And it shows taxes and general sales and use tax. And if you look at the general sales tax, I just briefed you that what we received from the state of South Dakota in terms of what we've earned for sales tax in 2025 was, just over $2.5 million. What we received so far is less than that. Currently, we're at $385,000. So all of the December amounts that we earned in that month has not been received by the city yet. So when you're looking at that report, those don't usually match up. There are times where, for example, in 2025, we had some payments from 2024 that was credited to 2025, and that seemed pretty consistent if you go back a couple years. Trying to, working with Ann to get a better understanding of, with our 13th month, when we have stuff coming in January that's credited towards 2025, that should be credited toward 2025. So just working through that. But when you see the sales tax year, that's not exactly what I reported. What I reported is the letters they receive us based on what you're going to receive. What's in Cassell right now in this report is what we have received.
Good point. Any questions? All right, Brett, we're back to you.
Well, thank you. Brett Lannis from the Greater Sturgis Foundation. I'm the president, and I drew the short straw this evening. That's why I'm here. I'd like to read something. Since 1989, the Greater Sturgis Foundation has invested nearly $1 million in charitable grants to support the Greater Sturgis community. Over the years, these funds have helped make possible a wide range of local projects and services for nonprofit organizations, including Sturgis Downtown Association, Sturgis Meade County Rodeo Grounds, Sturgis Kiwanis Food Pantry, Sturgis Senior Center, and the Crisis Intervention Shelter, to name a few. As we continue our work in the community, we remain committed to supporting projects that bring people together and create opportunities for everyone to enjoy, while promoting a positive economic impact for the Sturgis area. Along with other board members of the Greater Sturgis Foundation, Rosemary Roth, Dean Kenny, Lance Shear, Terry Herman, and Carrie Applegate, we are honored to announce a $250,000 grant award to support the expansion of the Sturgis Trail System. Funding will be provided in phases, with an initial allocation released upon final project approval and construction readiness. Remaining funds will be dispersed annually over a multi-year period subject to the successful completion of agreed-upon milestones delineated in a forthcoming memorandum of understanding. Without question, our board was motivated and inspired by the tireless efforts given by Kevin Forrester as a private citizen, long before his role as Mayor Forrester. Kevin's vision and leadership on the Sturgis Trails project had led to a permanent positive improvement to the greater Sturgis community. People like Kevin and Sam Greer and dozens, perhaps hundreds, of other volunteers have brought to life an initiative that hits on all the key elements that the Greater Sturgis Foundation is looking for when deciding on a major donation. We look for opportunities to provide funding that can act as a bridge toward additional financing. In this case, we believe this donation will lead to other fundraising and federal allocations to complete a project of 19 miles of additional trails at an estimated cost of over $1 million. Sturgis Trails has already added to our robust tourism industry in town, providing an entirely new segment of visitors who support our businesses and improve the tax base of our community. Most importantly, Mayor, your vision and hard work is improving the quality of life for our residents and all who use this wonderful trail system to enjoy the stunning beauty of our beloved Black Hills. Mayor Forrester, our board thanks you and all the other volunteers. It is the hard work that has already gone into this project that has given the Greater Sturgis Foundation the confidence to invest this $250,000 in this exciting and game-changing next phase. We are excited to support this project. Thank you. I'm not taking any questions.
Well, what a very generous gift from the Greater Sturgis Foundation to the community of Sturgis. We certainly appreciate all the pieces that go with that. We don't have a big check or anything, but should we get a photo?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm pass it down. Can all you supporters come up front?
You all come up. Yeah, you all need to be in.
You guys step around front and back in here. Half moon. Right, Tim? Two rows, come on. Terry. Thank you. Great. How's it look, Tim?
It looks good. I can't see Greer. There he goes.
Okay.
There we go.
Terry, you need to
Blakeman.
move that way a little bit. In front of him, please. Yeah. There we go. That's great. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. What do you think?
Perfect.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We should just adjourn now. All right, item 8 is our consent agenda. We've got 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there any item that any counselor or any member of the audience is interested in having removed from the consent agenda? All right, hearing no objection, do we have any motion for the consent agenda?
A motion to approve.
We got a first by Ruth, a second by Jim to approve the consent agenda. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, item 9 is approval of the claims. Does anybody have any questions on the claims tonight? Anybody from the gallery? Bonnie had a question?
I just want to say look at how fewer questions we have since the presentation is so much clearer as to what's going on. So thank you, Ann, for that. I always had questions before.
Perfect.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
We got a first by Terry, a second by Tony to approve the claims as presented. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion is carried. Item 11 is reports. 11.1 is consideration to approve Resolution 2026-04 establishing utility rates for 2026.
Question, you jumped from 9 to 11, there was a 10 for public hearing?
There's no public hearing listed.
Okay. I apologize, I was late, or I would have had been in here for the, non-agenda matters.
I think we'll probably get to some of your stuff in a little bit here, so.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. Up for consideration tonight is the 2026 utility rate resolution. Following the completion of a review of operational expenses, system maintenance costs, and future capital obligations, the staff did develop the following utility rate recommendation. This rate structure was approved and recommended to the Sturgis City Council for adoption by the Municipal Utility Board. And a breakdown of it is basically water. We are anticipating or proposing no increase to the 2026 base rate. In addition to that, we're going to include 2,000 gallons of water in the base rate. So the current residential base rate of $8.01 will result in a lower bill for approximately one third of our current account holders. Before, you had to pay per thousand rate. So for every 1,000 gallons of water you used, you also paid a rate. So we're proposing increasing the base rate to include the first 2,000 gallons as a part of the base rate. But then we are asking that we increase the per 1,000 gallon rate from 252 to 325 and commercial from 283 to 350. And basically what that will do is once you exceed your 2,000 gallons included in your base rate, you will be charged that per 1,000. Ran the bills a couple of different ways. For example, myself during the summer months, June, July, August, when I have my sprinklers going on, this would, if I water every day, this would result in a little over $5 increase to my bill. So again, it gives people the option. If they don't want to see their bill increase, they can take some water conservation measures. For me, example, I could maybe water every other day. And so I think it's a good deal, and that should satisfy all of our budgetary needs, meets all of our revenue requirements. Sewer charge, we're no change recommended for 2026 rates. However, during our internal audit, we did discover that there were several, all of the commercial sewer accounts were not being billed correctly. So we do intend, starting January 1, those bills will go out here in February, that we will start to bill those correctly. We're not increasing any rates. We're just going to start billing them correctly. We're not going to go back and assess any of the bills for past that were owed. We're just moving forward from January 1. We will start to bill that correctly. And that was just the commercial sewer accounts. Sanitation, we're not recommending any kind of a rate increase there. Those rates will stay the same. These recommendations are intended to maintain rate stability for the average user while ensuring sufficient revenue to support the daily operations, the long-term system maintenance, debt service coverage, and any future capital. One of the things that I would like to point out, and at some point in time in the future, we probably will need to at least address or visit it, and I have had some calls on it, is the availability fees. Currently, there are some scenarios where our availability fees are greater than our base rate. And the reason we have that is past history. For example, water, when we got the SRF loan and we put the surcharge on, we reduced the base rate by the amount of the surcharge, so it was a net zero. Well, now your base rate is lower than what your availability fee is. Same thing we've done, I believe it was 3 or 4 years ago across the board, we lowered utility rates, and the council didn't adjust the availability rates to match that. So there are some cases where the availability rates, and what we're talking about is if you go to Arizona for the winter or vice versa, come back here for the summer and you go onto an availability, that actually is in some instances higher than just leaving your water on. So something we can certainly look at in the future. I'm not convinced that the availability fee is out of line. It's just that's how we got there, was we've lowered the rates and we didn't lower the availability fee portion of it the same manner. So with that, I would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Rick, the MUB, their recommendation was unanimous on this.
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Any other questions? The resolution 2026-04 establishing utility rates for 2026.
I move. I'll second.
Yeah, first by Jim, second by Nick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. 11.2 is update for phase 1 of recodification project.
This is just a status report. Certainly, we've talked about it many times. The council's familiar with that. We are kind of in the middle of a multi-phase initiative to modernize, recodify, improve user access to the city of Sturgis's ordinances. That process began in January of last year when the council engaged American Legal Publishing to begin a recodification process of our ordinances that hadn't been done since the 80s. American Legal, we delivered them a copy of our code. They went through and put that into their format with their process, sent us their legal and editorial review report where they were going through just integrity checking, making sure that all the text was there, having their editors go through, check all the citations. Then they sent back a list of about 100 questions and things for us to check, make sure that there wasn't missing text in ordinances, confirm ordinance numbers, ask questions about, there's an outdated reference to South Dakota codified law. Do you want to include the updated reference, for example? flagging an issue that looks like there's a transposed number. So we went through those on a staff level, fixed all those, have been communicating with the city's ordinance committee about the recodification project. In our committee meetings, we divided that into about 3 phases, with phase 1 being implementing American Legal's codification structure and making those typo level and minor housekeeping corrections to the existing code. We had conversations about waiting until some of the other ordinance modification was done to adopt the code, and ultimately the committee's recommendation, along with my recommendation, was to go ahead and implement the new code structure before we start making any governance level, policy level changes that would be up to the city council. So that's what we've completed now. We now have phase 1. American Legal has delivered their product based on the scope of their work, which is our code in its format with all of the legal and editorial changes that have been made, and that is now ready to be adopted. It's behind Deb on the window here in the binders. Part of their deliverables were delivering us these new code books. Again, it's basically our code in their new format with these typo level changes, no substantive policy changes. We've reviewed this with the ordinance committee at their last meeting, and our anticipation is that we will bring you a first reading of an ordinance to adopt this new code at the next meeting. Then we'll go through second reading, then the code will be published, and then that will position us to begin phase 2, which is addressing some, just making sure that we have implemented any necessary changes to ensure that all of our ordinances are aligned with current state law, current federal law, and then the ordinance committee is already working on phase 3, which is looking at targeted ordinance changes, any ordinances that may need to be added, repealed, modified to better reflect the needs of the Sturgis community today and the desires of the city council and the mayor moving forward. So it feels good to get phase 1 under our belts, and we do anticipate having that ordinance. It'll be brief. There's South Dakota codified law provisions that allow us to adopt this code. It'll be available for the public in the city finance office. And then once we go through second reading and after the 20-day period, it will be active. American Legal will publish that on its website. We will link to that. All the city ordinances will link to that, and then we'll begin phase 2 and phase 3 efforts. Aaron has already been communicating with, on the staff level, if there are ordinances, sections of code that they administer, that those numbers are going to be changing so that we can get form letters and applications and permits updated. So that's ongoing, a lot of ongoing behind the scenes staff work to get this new code implemented, but we're excited to have it. It is definitely going to be more user-friendly for the public, for the council, and more accurate and position us to continue our multi-phase project of modernizing our ordinances so they're more suited to the community's needs.
Thank you, Eric. Just to kind of keep tabs on, one of our hot items that we're working on. I mean, I have obviously camping is one, that mobile home 1 zoning is one. What phase do you anticipate that coming in?
I would call all of that stuff phase 3 type work, but that doesn't mean that we're not starting to work on all of that already. Of course, the ordinance committee's main focus has been on the recodification and the camping ordinance. That was what the city council referred to them first. The ordinance committees met 3 times. The main topic of discussion at each of those meetings was the residential camping ordinance, and it is anticipated. The committee wants to see wants to see that proposed work that they've been doing one more time at their upcoming meeting, and then we'll plan on having a presentation to the city council with the work that ordinance committee has come up with on that. Mobile home 1 is still on the staff level right now. We're working with our planning and zoning consultant. I communicated with her about that today. There is a chance that we'll have that she may come down to the next council meeting and engage with the council a little bit on policy directions that could go. That's our anticipation right now, and we're checking with her calendar and the council's direction on that, but we're focused on that, at least on the staff level at this point.
Thank you. Do we have a public comment here?
I do. Don Lee, Aviation 305 8th Street up here. I've been here for the last couple of city council meetings. I think last month the city administrator said that they were going to be bringing something to the city council. And now I'm hearing that that won't happen until the next city council meeting?
I don't recall a specific date or deadline where something was going to be coming, but I do recall it being indicated that it would be brought to the city council, yes.
Okay. So as a city attorney, would you recommend us as homeowners to seek out legal advice on where we need to go with this? Because I did ask that this be fast-tracked. I think Jim also was speaking about it being fast-tracked. The mayor said, we don't want to fast-track because we want to make sure it's done right. I get that. I've had another opportunity to sell my house and can't do it because this is holding me up. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do to help you guys, because it doesn't seem to be, you know, like I said, I heard Jim or Aaron at the last meeting state that they would have something to bring to the city council meeting, this city council meeting. And now I'm hearing that you're talking to your other person about maybe the next city council meeting. So what is it?
I think I can add to that.
Please.
The work that we have to do with our phase one, our adjustment with our American Legal, has to be done before we can continue on to 2. Otherwise, we're held up for 2 meetings in 20 days because the code isn't solid. Is that a correct statement?
It's true that we are held up in some ways by just the process of recodification, that's correct.
But we should be in the right spot to be able to start with that at the at the next meeting here.
So what I'm hearing as well on this is that this was started a year ago, and this is phase 1, is now just being completed, and you're telling me that phase 3 is potentially where this mobile home 1 or manufactured 1 zoning is going to fall in? So is that another 2 years, or what's? I'm trying to figure out a timeline here, because I'm the one that's hurting here right now.
So the timeline, once we get past the phase 1, we can start working on it. And then we can try to get resolution.
Okay, so
You know, and it isn't just your neighborhood.
Sure.
It's other neighborhoods.
Several, right. So that's why I was asking the city attorney. Would you advise us homeowners to seek out legal advice to try to figure out how to get this resolved? Or, I mean, what do we need to do as homeowners?
I don't provide legal advice to homeowners in the
Right,
city of Sturgis,
right.
and I'm not going to.
But as an attorney, I'm just asking, especially the city attorney.
I advise the city council.
Okay. So there's no advice to us homeowners as to what we should do?
I do not have any advice for you.
I don't know that there's a lot that can be done,
Right.
you know, right now from the homeowner standpoint until the zoning is changed. I think probably some of the discrepancy is maybe, you know, what is fast track to you versus what is fast track to Jim or me or, you know, whoever. I'm sure we all have different definitions of that. I will say that it's a process, right? I don't know. It's being fast tracked as fast as it can go, I guess. I don't know how to say that.
You know, right now we have, if we're looking at it from a phase 3 perspective, we have 3 issues that we're trying to move the ball forward on. One of it was the one that started, 6 months ago when we came out of the rally. The other one is the MH1, and then we also have some stuff with some small developments. And so we've engaged with Jana, who's been supporting us with that professional service contract. And so she's been very specifically working on the MH1 and also for the one for the smaller developments. We did see if she was available for this meeting. She's not. She could have maybe zoomed in. I didn't feel comfortable doing a zoom in. I think on this one, we need to have this one in person. So it comes down to her availability. And all I can tell you is that we're moving all the balls forward. But as we're moving those balls forward, there are a ton of other actions that are going on that we've been trying to, you know, respond to or be proactive and be in front of. And so it's always been our priority. We're moving it. I can understand from a public perspective, particularly with your situation, Don Lass, is you know, you want that sooner than later because it has an impact on selling your property.
Correct.
But we have to do it within the confines of the time that we have. And I'd say when we're talking about fast tracking, there's no other I mean, we have tons of ordinances that we have opportunities to even to introduce or to fix. But right now, those are the three primary ones that we're working on. So from my perspective, we are fast tracking it based on availability of time and resources. But I can understand from the outside looking in, it seems a little bit slow.
All right, so can we, at the next city council meeting, just have a review of the last city minutes as to what I was talking about? And Aaron saying that something would be brought to the city council, this city council meeting, and then you're stating that this lady will be here at the next city council meeting. So I do expect that, and
Well,
I will be here,
Well,
that's
I
all
we're
I'm
not,
saying.
I would say, I guess if there's anything I'm learning in this job now,
Right.
is that maybe I should keep my mouth kind of quiet when it comes down to managing expectations.
Okay.
We had the intention of trying to have it during this particular meeting, but just everything I've just communicated, the stars didn't line up. We didn't have all the people available that were going to be able to do that.
Okay.
It's not even guaranteed that we're going to be able to do it the next time.
Okay.
But
I
I'm
guess that's what I'm looking for, is
But
that
I'm confident that we're doing it, and I would tell you, this is one, as a city administrator, I sit down with Eric, our city attorney, and we review these particular topics, and this is one that's we're always talking about, and that we're always trying to move forward. Again, as the mayor stated, it's not just your situation. We have situations on the other side of town going up on underneath the Vidoc, up Sherman Street there. So we know it's a hot topic, and that we're trying to, you know, not just move the ball forward, but move the ball forward appropriately, responsibly, and try to get this right. One of the things that will be coming up when we do this report with Jana is more about providing some options, you know, how restrictive you want to go, how open you want to go, and then get some guidance from the council so we can kind of redirect. What we don't want to do, and again, in terms of trying to move the ball faster, is to sit down and do a ton of analysis on multiple options when we may get some direction from the leadership in terms, hey, we want you to focus in on this side of it, and then we can start digging into the details on that particular option. But again, no guarantees on when that will happen. All I'm just saying is that the mall is moving each and every week. That ball is moving forward.
Right. And I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Again, I'm just a little frustrated.
I understand that. I know we've had multiple conversations on this.
We
I've been
have.
up at your house, and I absolutely appreciate your position.
Okay. So I guess there's nothing else until the next city council meeting, possibly. So, thank
Likely.
you.
Yeah, I would say likely.
All right, that takes us to a completion of 11.2, correct? No action on that?
No.
11.3 is consideration to approve resolution 2026-1, salaries and wages for 2026 payroll.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. State law requires that salaries and wages of all city officials and employees be set by resolution of the Common Council each year. There we go. Resolution 2026-1 sets wages and salaries for all employees. The cost of living COLA granted to employees this year was 2.9. And is a result of local negotiations with the Teamsters Local 120 union that represents the city's bargaining unit employees. As you can see, we did last name, first name, position. All information has been captured. Does anybody have any questions on the information provided?
Any questions? I think there's been a few questions.
Yeah,
I
could
have-
you
okay,
just
Go ahead, Jess.
kind of run through, I think there was some confusion of how we got where we're at from different people. Can you,
Yes.
I know it's not an easy thing to try to explain, but
Sure.
can you try?
Absolutely. So when we first set the budget, Aaron and I set the budget by using a 27th pay period. In 2026, there is an anomaly called the 27th pay period. And so every 11 years, there is a 27 pay period. The first pay period in 2026 began on January 2nd. The last 27th pay period is going to occur on December 31st 2026. That will be the 27th pay period. When we set the budget up, what we did is we took even hourly employees, we converted them to a salary, divided by 26 and then multiplied by 27, essentially granting an employee a 27th pay period, awarding them a free 27th pay period. So the budget that the council approved awarded them that 27th pay period. When we went back to the Teamsters, they disapproved that 27th pay period and then came back with wanting a 2.9 COLA. In addition to the 2.9 COLA, they also wanted for a collective bargaining agreement for 2026 and 2027, for 2027, a cost of living between 1.5% and 3% cost of living. That was agreed upon. The 27th pay period was essentially taken off the table. A 2.9 COLA was agreed upon. However, because we still have 27 pay periods, we had to divide that 2.9 COLA by 27 pay periods. So in essence, that 27th free pay period was taken off the table in lieu of a 2.9 cost of living that still was divided by 27 pay periods. In the long run, employees are going to come out for the better because of the agreement of the COLA for 2027. Essentially what we did was we took that Condrey pay scale, now we're calling it the Sturgis pay scale. We added the 2.9% onto that Condrey pay scale that the council agreed to. We're implementing that over the 2 years, 2026 and 2027. We put the 2.9 against the Condrey pay scale. And so for 2027, we will be adding the cost of living of either 1.5 from 1.5 to 3% onto the 2.9 for 2026. So essentially employees from 2026 to 2027 could have an increase of 5.9% cost of living between those 2 years. Did I muddy the water even further? I
Well,
apologize.
Let me just add
Please,
to it just a little
please,
bit, Carrie.
Aaron.
And I appreciate,
Please, yeah.
we've had sleepless nights on this one, haven't we? Again, we started off with the first option was we basically implemented half of the Condrey. And then whatever that came up to, we divided that by 26, then multiplied it by 27 to get what your annual rate would be. Everybody in that option was moving upwards, except maybe a few that just started within the last month or two. That was what we proposed to the union. We have 2 unions that represented the employees of City of Sturgis. One of those groups came back and said, we accept that option. The other option, we want to do the COLA option. And as we looked at it, from a long-term perspective, as Carrie pointed out, it does provide more income to our employees, our teammates over that 2 years. But there were some, about a third that were going to go back anywhere from a couple cents up to some people around $1.30 or so per an hour or per pay period. We communicated that to the union, that understanding if we do this option, it's better long-term, but it's going to have an impact on some people short-term. And that went through and that was accepted by both groups. I'm not sure if and I can understand why it wasn't completely understood. You think this would be easy, and if we didn't have that 27th pay period, it probably would be easy, and it's made it pretty complicated. So a couple weeks ago, prior to Christmas, is when I think they started to recognize, particularly the union. We talked with the business unit or the business agent for the Teamsters Local 120 and said, hey, we got some people that are going to be making less, because we had shared the spreadsheet that kind of shows you what they make for 2026. Here's what they're going to be making in 2027. And we said, yep, that's exactly right. That's what we communicated to you, weeks ago. And so that created some concerns. So we talked with James. We had a couple of their union stewards that reached out to Carrie and myself to discuss this with us. So we sat down for maybe an hour and a half or so, went through the spreadsheets, And we showed exactly, yep, there are about a third of your work, of our teammates that will be making a little bit less per pay period. Now, they'll make more for the year, but they will make a little bit less for the pay period. And those groups deliberated on this for a couple days, and they decided they wanted to stay with the COLA option. Prior to the last meeting, remember we pulled this one off on Monday 2 weeks ago, because right before that meeting, the union contacted us, and they felt, based on their legal counsel, that COLA option that we were implementing violated the Fair Labor Standard Act. And so that's why we pulled it off the last meeting. We had Eric, our city attorney, review it. We engaged with SDPAA, their legal counsel. They spent about 4 days reviewing this and talking with subject matter experts. And they came back and said, nope, you guys are good. It does not violate that act. We reached out to the union, to the business agent, and I said, you give me a paragraph signed by your legal counsel saying it's your opinion that this option violates that act. We will implement the other option. And they responded to us. They didn't give us anything from their legal counsel. They just responded that we had another vote and we still want to stay with that particular COLA option. And generally, and honestly, as I look at this, and Carrie and I have spent countless hours on this because we know how sensitive this is. But if you look at that COLA option over not just 2 years, but over their career, that is a better option for them. And that's why when they provided an option, I came back to the council and recommended that we accept this. It's going to cost us more, but I thought it was the best thing to do for the city, our employees. And from the union perspective, I was giving them kudos because I think they were looking out long term. And I do think that's what they're doing. That's why, even though it's been some tight votes with our teammates, hasn't been unanimous on terms of accepting that particular option. It's been pretty tight. But I do think most of those that have looked at it and the union themselves recognize that, over 2 years and beyond, that was a better option. But it's tough to tell somebody who is making a certain amount per paycheck in 2025 and making a little bit less this year. The people that were impacted by all that I use myself as an example. When we got into the cadre, remember they looked at what your grade was and then based on where you're at right now, determine what step you would be in. And we had a handful of our employees that were way below market value for the job that they were in. And so those are people who are seeing a significant increase, just a handful. The other people that are probably not going backwards at all are people that have seniority. Because once we got you into your right grade and your right step, based on your seniority, you went up 1 step or 2 steps, 5 and 10 years respectively. So those people that went up on their seniority, that was either another 2.5% or a 5% on top of what they were making last year. And then with the addition of the COLA and implementation of that Condra study, now the Sturgis pay scale, all those people are going forward. So 2/3 of our force is going forward, and some of them very significantly. But there was 1/3 that falls in the category where I fell, and a lot of us, that third is that I don't have seniority, and I was under a year. I'm not even close to the 5-year to get a seniority bump. And where I came in on the particular step, I was just about 0.5% below. And so for me, when we implemented half of the cadre, that means I was getting about 0.25% increase because I was so close to the top of that particular, and that's where they're moving me to, is the next level. And so we have people that were, if you were closer to the bottom of that particular, and we're moving you up that 2.5% to 2%, most of those people are seeing a little bit of an increase. But if you were somewhere between the middle of that step and the top of that step, like myself, you're making a little bit less per a pay period. However, over the 27 pay periods, you will make more. And so it's been that's been the journey that we've been on, and we've given the union multiple opportunities to off-ramp off the COLA option and go back to the original option, which is the 27th pay period. And, I can't argue with their final decision that they wanted to stay with the COLA. But again, it wasn't universal, and not everybody's extremely excited about that. The reason that we kind of looked at that is that the cadre was about an 8% increase. Based on your guidance, we implemented half of that, so that's roughly about 4%. But again, some people are making maybe 10% more, and some people are making 1/4% more, you know, because it runs the gamut. But it was 4% that would cost the city of Sturgis. And then on top of that, we had the COLA component of it. And so for us, if we were to treat it like the other option, we could give them, all employees, another, you know, just take whatever that COLA option comes up to, and we divide that by 26 or 80 hours. That becomes your pay period amount. We could give, you know, we could just go ahead, just like we did on the other option, provide that 27th pay period at, you know, at our expense. But to do that, though, would be another $300,000. We did about 4 positions we did not fill in 2026 because we were trying to get down to what we could afford, you know, with our budget. We had projected about, I think, $10,287,000 of revenue coming in the general account, and that's how much right now that we have going out. But to get down to that amount, we had to at least temporarily eliminate some of our FTEs in the general account to be able to get to that. So at the end of the day, it was just what could you afford? We've already about 8%. Our personnel costs for 25 to 26 is about 8%. Again, over 2 years, and we just got the spreadsheet out, and I do apologize. I wish we would have got that out sooner. But I would tell you, this has been something that we've been working and dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and you got almost 100 employees, and there was always some mistakes, and we're probably still going to be dealing with some of that as we get feedback from the employees. But it does show them exactly what they are making this year and also what they're making next year. Every employee is making at least about $400 more over 2 years with the option that the union selected versus the option that we proposed. So I hope that answers the question. That's not the end of this, because again, for those that third of people, that's a difficult situation. I mean, part of it is that, hey, I work, you know, how much it costs the city doesn't really, not my concern. You know, the fact that I'm going backwards from 1 year to the next is a tough thing to stomach. So that's where we're at this point.
May I ask,
Yeah.
We dealt with the union. How many of the city employees are members of the union?
Well, we have the majority are what we call bargaining unit members, but we only have probably a smaller percentage that are actually that pay
Paying
dues to the
members.
union.
The only employees that can vote are dues-paying members. And so the larger majority of the dues-paying members are the law enforcement collective bargaining unit versus the city employees. And so we have 2 collective bargaining unit contracts. We've got the law enforcement and we've got the city employees. And so the law enforcement does have the larger dues-paying members than the city employees do.
And anybody could be a due-paying member if they chose to be,
If
Yeah,
you're-
as long as they're a bargaining unit employee, yes.
and a paying member.
They can be a paying member, yes.
You know, one of the things that we proposed early on was moving from 2 contracts to 1 contract. The reason that we had 2 contracts in the past is that we had 2 different unions that were representing the employees of Sturgis. We had one union that was representing law enforcement, and we had one union that was representing everybody else. And I don't know when this happened. Rick or Jody or Ann could probably tell you, but at some point here in the recent past, now we have one union that represents all our employees, but yet we still have 2 contracts. And there were some reasons why they didn't want to move to 2 contracts. And, you know, at the time, this was probably back in April, May timeframe with everything else going on, it just wasn't a flag I wanted to plant necessarily and, you know, and battle on this particular issue. I figured that the contracts had been working for us over the last couple of years, and we can get through this contract. Right now it's going to be a 2-year contract until we can set things up for the next one. And I've already communicated to James Herron, who is the business agent for the Teamsters Local 120, that we would prefer to have a 1 contract. One of the opportunities for us, and with Carrie as our HR, is to establish a effective personnel policy. And my vision of that is that we'll have a personnel policy that manages everybody, both bargaining unit employees that are part of the union and everybody else that's exempt. and exempt people like, as a manager, I'm exempt from being in a union. We have some positions, like all our people in finance are exempt from being in a unit based on their unique positions. But we still should have a personnel policy that encompasses everybody, and then that treats everybody fairly. And then with that, and again, I think we need to stay united in terms of just having one contract. Because one of the things that, and I think Carrie kind of brought this up, is that sometimes it pits our teammates against each other because they're representative, they have two different contracts. Anytime that you add friction and tension into a team, that's not necessarily a good thing. It'd be better, I think, if they spoke as one voice. And as like I've talked to them, I said, you guys may be union members, but you're my teammates. And we are just as concerned about your compensation and treated you with respect and the standards that we should treat you as, not just the union piece of it, but we recognize that the union does provide a valuable asset. Again, just looking at it from a different option with the COLA option, which is a long-term benefit to our employees. So I give them a lot of credit for that. But in the future, it'd be nice to have just one contract informed by our personnel policy, and then we can refer that personnel policy and that we're all operating on one. And so when we have a vote, it's a vote of everybody. And it may not be unanimous, but it's not pitting groups against each other. Again, that was not intentional. That's not the intention of those groups. It's not the intention of the union. I would tell you, over the last year, it's been a great experience working with James Herron and Teamsters Local 120, and working with our union stewards. Reasonable people, want us to be able to serve the community, but also want to take care of the employees that they represent. And so I think the relationship we have is pretty good, even though this has been somewhat of a challenge going back and forth. There's been tension, but there's never been any friction. So I guess that's kind of where we're at on that piece of it. But again, most of our employees are bargaining unit, and out of them, only a small percentage of our paying dues, and only they.
Well, and moving forward this year, we're going to have a public safety collective bargaining agreement, which includes the police officers and the ambulance, and then we'll have the city employees. And so just like Aaron was saying, hopefully eventually because this is going to be effective for 2026 and 2027, hopefully in 2028 we can have one collective bargaining agreement that will encompass all employees.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Answer your question.
I'm just trying to figure, the employee that called me just said, I'm going to make less money every pay period. What do I do? Well, I can't answer everybody's questions like that, but that is an issue that, and I guess I directed him to his department head. I don't know how else you would do that, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, Carrie, mostly Carrie, and to extent myself have been dealing with, because, there's not 100% satisfaction with the final answer. And it's not necessarily satisfying to them when we say, well, this is a decision that the union made. It wasn't a decision that we made. The advantage of the option that we had was that we were kind of treating everybody going forward. There was nobody going backwards whatsoever. And we were just, whatever your pay period amount was, or your hourly amount was, we were just going to continue to pay that through the 27th pay period. But I can recognize from the union why they liked the 2.9, and because when they look at it over 2 years, it's better, and then every year after that, it's better. You can look at this, when we did the 27th pay period, that was an additional 3.85% that they would be making and that we would be paying. They'd be getting that over 27 pay periods in calendar year 2026 versus the 26 that they would normally have. But that 3.85 was it's a one-time gift. You can look at from a COLA perspective, because next year, if we would have done that approach, next year we would have applied either a 1.5 up to a 3-point COLA. That COLA would have went back to what they were being paid in 2025. And that 1.5 or 3.0 would have been on top of, okay, now we're taking 2025, and in 2027 we're applying that 1.5 to 3.0. The 2.9 COLA is kind of, you can look at as the gift that keeps on giving.
Right, it's
Because
the
next
baseline.
year, when we're applying that COLA, it's on top of the COLA they got this year. And then in '28, they get whatever that COLA is on top of the last two COLAs. So again, from my perspective, when the union presented this option, absolutely recognize that we would have some people that would go backwards, particularly because we were implementing Condre, only half of it, and even sometimes fully wouldn't have necessarily changed the outcome. But if you look at it from a 2-year and more perspective, it's a good deal. But again, it wasn't such a great deal where you had unanimous. I mean, it was like a 7-6 vote. It was a very tight vote when it came down to it. So you had almost a half the people, just less than half, did not support that option. But at the end of the day, I felt as representative of the city, we had made a commitment to the union that we would support what they voted for. And again, we've given them multiple times to maybe change their direction if they chose to. And each of those times, they have reinforced that they wanted to continue on with the option that they chose initially. The one that we have right now, where there are a few people that are making a little bit less per paycheck than they did in 2025.
Until the 27th pay period.
But wouldn't the 27th, they're still getting the benefit of the 27th pay period.
Yeah,
So that they're making more for the year.
Yes,
But less in each pay period.
that's correct.
Aaron, I had somebody ask me, so why didn't the city just say there was 26 pay periods? Why didn't we just, pay them their regular wage and then the city just donate the 27th pay period to everybody? And I said, you have any idea what that would have cost us? And what would that have cost?
It'd be, I mean, if you look at the salary sheet that we just had for this pay period, it was just over $300,000. It would cost just about a little over $300,000. And again, if we, again, we've already paid at 8%. So, and we've had to reduce a couple of FTEs to get down to where we're at right now. I mean, that 300,000 would represent either less FTEs, positions that are vacant right now and not filling them, or going back and looking at our budgets and figuring out what we're not going to do, what we're not going to buy. So, again, this is what the mayor's been talking about. From 21 to 23, we spent $4 million more than we brought in. I think we are starting to get healed. The report that Ann just provided, I mean, we're probably about $3 million to the plus. That's not quite, because we did pay the state back, but we're at least about $2 million, a little over $2 million to the plus in 2025. Even if you take away the sale of that portion of the Richards property, the Department of Transportation for South Dakota, we still are about $2 million ahead versus in our general account in terms of what we brought for means of finance and what we spent. And a lot of that's been because we have been trying to, not spend money, not to do a lot of things until we had a more clear picture of what our financial picture is. And again, when I came into the job just a year ago, you look what was in our bank, it's double that right now. So we're getting better, and the fact that we have more revenue coming in than we have expenses is the main contributor to that. And so, I felt pretty good. I mean, in the terms of that, we invested another 8% on our personnel. But with the implementation of that wage study, it wasn't necessarily equal, because you have some people that are based on seniority or based on being less than where their market value is. So, some of those people that fell right into the middle. So it's not necessarily a initial satisfaction. However, every year they'll go up, once we get this fully implemented, they'll go up a step for the first 10 steps every year based on successful performance. And then every 2 years, they'll go up another step. And that step represents 2.5% on top of whatever COLA we have. So from a legislative perspective, I mean, I think that was good on your part back in 2025 to initiate that wage study. I know that for several years, the city staff has been trying to get the time to be able to do a wage study and kind of look at what all the region is, and we just never were able to get there. Now, in the CBAs do have people on both those contracts that were getting a little bit step increases. Not consistently every year, it was a little back and forth, but all your non-exempt people, the only increases they ever got was on the COLA. And it never got any step increases. So now you've implemented a step increase, that goes out for a 26-year time frame if you started today. And so I think, again, I think we're doing pretty good in terms of trying to reward our employees. We also did a lot of work on our insurance. We had some options, and that was by democracy. And it was the vote of our employees that determined, what insurance program we were going to have in 2026. And we did change our insurance program to one that's actually in line with the Teamsters, because I wouldn't say it's necessarily cheaper per a month, and Carrie could probably tell you exactly what that is. But what's very cheaper about it is that their deductibles. Before they were paying, what was the deductible last year for a single and family?
It was like $6,000 and $12,000, and this year it's $500 and $1,500.
So it's very significant. So you're going to hit your threshold on your deductible pretty quickly. So I think if you look at it, step back and look at what we have done to help out our teammates that serve our community, I think we've done quite a bit. Now, can we do more? From some perspective, I absolutely understand that. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to afford it. We also have to be able to afford buying new police cars, buying hardware and supplies and materials. And so at the end of the day, it's what we did as much as we could that we could afford. And that's why we implemented over 2 years.
Well, I appreciate you guys basically getting thrown into the fire and, you're working hard on it, and I appreciate that about you, so thank you.
It was just dumb luck timing for us, that 27th pay period. If we wouldn't have had that, this would have been...
It would have been a lot easier.
Yeah. That 27th pay, it's just perfect storm of, you're doing the implementation of something at the same time you're doing a 27th pay period at the same time that we're trying to dig out of a financial hole. I mean, it's just a perfect storm in that sense. But overall, still, I think positive for our teammates.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We never had a motion or a second on that.
I'll move to approve.
Okay. First by Terry, second by Nick, to approve Resolution 2026-1, salaries and wages for 2026 payroll. Is there any further discussion? Anything from the gallery? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Item 11.4 is consideration to approve ambulance service joint powers agreement between Meade County Rural Ambulance District and the City of Sturgis.
Yeah, I have this report, but I also got backup. I got Mark Brook out here in the audience, and I also got Aiden from the ambulance side of it. But bottom line is, this is we've had a contract. Mark, I'm not sure how long we've had this contract, but I know we had one that started in 2021. That was a 5-year contract that ended at the end of 2025. And we sat down with the Meade County Rural Ambulance District over several meetings and reworked, our next 5-year contract for providing that service to our rural Meade County area. Basically, this one just formalizes our role as a provider of dispatch-based ambulance service for the Meade County Rural Ambulance District service area. We will provide a 24/7 dispatch-based ambulance service to their area. They will compensate us for that. We have the amount of that, and it goes up each year about 2.5%. All of Meade County, it's more the western. If you can see the map behind it, kind of goes up on 34, about halfway maybe to Union Center. And maybe Mark, you can probably articulate the service area better than I can, if you would help me, please.
How about that? All right. Yeah, that's the map. It basically goes up to I think it's within 2 miles of the Butte County line down to exit 40 on the interstate to the county line. bordering Lawrence County and then out just past the river. The only thing in there that isn't correct on this map is it's got the little block out for Buffalo Chip in there. Buffalo Chip is a part of the district and does pay, so this is an old map, I think originally done by the city, so.
Yeah, and the amount for 2026 is $71,279, and again, that will go up 2.5% each year for the next 5 years. Again, I think this has been a pretty good relationship. You know, we used to provide service to Lawrence County for much less than that, and we were always operating at a loss. This amount that we get from the Meade County Rural Ambulance District is kind of makes us whole, that we're not necessarily going into the red when we're providing that services. So, any questions for me or any questions for Mark or Aiden?
I would have a quick question, and that's the definition between BLS and ALS in the contract. It lists both. Can you kind of define the?
Sure. BLS versus ALS is the type of care we provide, and the BLS level is at the EMT level, and it's just that. It's BLS stands for basic life support. There's not a lot of bells and whistles with it. And then the ALS is advanced life support. That's when your paramedics come into place, and that tends to be things, an advanced patient care assessment. It's IVs, cardiac monitors, defibrillation, all your cardiac medications, all your pain meds, things like that. So it's a higher level of care. It's also billed at a higher rate.
So the term that I saw, and Deb, you went past it by quite a ways there, but it actually mentioned something about when available. I mean,
Yeah, okay. So the city of Sturgis, our ambulance service with the state is licensed as a BLS service with ALS capability. And what that means is every truck will always have an EMT in the back, but not always a paramedic. So we're a basic life support ambulance licensed, but whenever available, we will always try to have, but we don't guarantee a paramedic in the back. And so there are ALS services that guarantee both the driver and the person in the back are a paramedic, and that they are always staffed with a paramedic. We staff a paramedic every day. However, due to sick call, or let's say one crew goes to Rapid City on a transfer, that 911 coverage that exists right now may be BLS because the ambulance that was taking the transfer had to be ALS. So we staff 2 crews a day, 24/7, one of which is ALS, and then the other one is a combination of ALS or BLS. So does that answer your question, Mayor?
answers my question. It was just making sure how we delineated between the two.
Clear as mud. And I'm always available if anybody wants to stop by the office and learn about it. I'm glad to talk.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a first by Alex, a second by Jim. Was that correct? Was that you, Terry? Okay. Don't yank my chain here.
We'll work our best.
All right. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That carried unanimously. Item 12 is executive session. We don't have a need tonight, correct? So that takes us down to adjourning the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
First by Alex, a second by Nick. Those in favor of adjournment indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Thank you. I thought it was, I couldn't tell.